Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip,
And I'm CJ.
and it is Friday in the Riv. And
After
we
a
got,
bunch of us, after a bunch of crap is going on already.
oh yeah, as always, we had some flooding all over the place. I guess one of the schools is underwater, and uh, so now let's see after everything got soaking wet if they'll worry about mold in this school.
Well, according to the phone call I received regarding that, it was the Letourneau School. Let's call them out for what they are.
All right.
Um, from what I've been told, they had, I guess, a good amount of water that they had to call in the maintenance crews from the day and evening shifts. Everybody had to come in to pump out the school. That's how much water there was. So remember, that water got all over those walls. Now, according to our sources, Ken Pacheco is doing this right now because the teachers are going to be coming back into the school to make it look like he's doing something. After all, they got a $14,000 pay raise. So come on. What could be the big deal?
Yeah.
Right?
And yeah. They always, they do, but like you said, they don't do the follow up. This thing's gotten wet. We've got mold issues, obviously. Let's see what they do prospectively, but they're not going to do anything. What they do is like when they painted over the mold to pretend it wasn't there until
Right.
they have, it's always by crisis in this city. They're gonna make it look like they're doing something. They're not gonna follow up yet. There are pictures again. They'll be in our archives forever. And this is what they do. It's like they never ever stop not doing anything, and then they complain and come back to us and say, "You've got to pay. We've got to." Oh, I don't care how much it costs to fix this. Well, you caused it and you exacerbated it. They shouldn't have given him a 14,000. They should have fired him. But if anything, they should have given him a $14,000 pay cut.
Right. Definitely.
Not a pay raise. I mean, the whole thing. Look, this whole city is just everything that they do is just ridiculous. It's absurd. All they know how to do is run back and try to take your money, and then they want to control. The government wants to control you. Now, I guess we'll see what happens with that mold. This is a serious issue. I mean, these people are like, oh yeah, well, we're going to go in and vacuum it out. Well, the moisture's still there.
That's right. That's right.
Now, the thing's been exposed. It's gotten wet. Mold and look at. I'm not going to claim to be a mold expert, but I know that mold forms. I know that mold forms. So my question is, and it was a question they should have already answered without us being asked and answered, is there some type of procedure that people who are experts in that field can come in and maybe coat the wall or spray the walls or do something to the walls that will mitigate the mold being created? I don't know, but this is what they're supposed to do. Kenny Pacheco just got another pay raise and he's making over $100,000. You think that they would say this to the public, but all they ever do is take our money and cover up everything. I mean, I'm sure there's some kind of remediation, proactive remediation if your walls get wet or something like that. There's got to be something. Yes, you're right, Steve. It can be deadly, and it's already made people sick in the schools, teachers and children. I mean, this is just, it's crazy. All they do is they make this quick statement, and then, okay, forget about it, keep your head down. They'll forget about the mold until we have to pay $1 million to fix all the mold problems. And we get sued for making people sick. But this is the Coogan government. Cover up Coogan. All he does is hide and not ever address anything. No press conferences, no nothing. I mean, I just watched this morning on the local news. I guess they had some issues at a Dominican festival. They arrested some guy, and a police officer was cleared because they were saying, oh, he hit the guy and everything else. And they showed the video, body cam video. And what happened was they said it escalated because he was resisting arrest. He'd been told numerous times he was drinking in public. And they said, you got to get out of here. You got to stop that. And he wouldn't. And he got belligerent. And he began a scuffle with the police. But then somebody said he had a gun in his bag. And then the police tried to get the bag. And then they really got that. And then the police officer began to hit him and stuff. And other police officers grabbing him. Well, they got the bag. He had a 9mm pistol with an extended magazine, which is illegal. And he'd already had a gun violation on his record. So the police officer was cleared. And who knows, if he would have got the gun out, he might have shot a civilian or a police officer. But this is the thing. But it was on television. The mayor of Providence came up and commended the police for their actions, said they averted a possible tragedy, and that, they've confiscated, 300 and some guns and, illegal guns. Yeah, whatever. Yeah. But there you go. A mayor who actually tells the public what they're doing proactively, keeps them in a loop. Feel a little safe. Don't feel totally safe, but we are doing something. Coogan, nothing. He's like Sergeant Schultz. I know nothing. So this is what you get. And then we got the other country heard from. I got a call this morning that Councilor Linda Pereira was on it. They're complaining about, I'm sick and tired of seeing grass growing out of people's sidewalks. So now they're going to deflect it to the public. The council that can't control its spending. The council that gives all these rich people tiffs and tithes. And we have a lot of absentee landlords. But let me tell you something. That's why I'd love to hit the megabucks. I'd sue them. Now they want to fine you for your grass. You got grass growing out of your sidewalk. Well, that's not my sidewalk. That's a public way. But they passed an ordinance to say that I have to take care of that. Well, my question is to you, CJ. If it's not my sidewalk, if my property ends at the sidewalk, if they give me that property, that's private property. So if somebody slips and falls on my property, all I have to do is post no trespassing signs. And you got to walk in the street when you go by my house. Because now that's my property. And if I don't want you on there, you shouldn't be on there. See, this is the whole thing. All they do is figure out how to get money. Bleed stones. They're always looking to grab money from us and complain. That's right. You're right. The good guy with the gun. But the reality is that all they ever do, and she's complaining about this, with all the stuff we got going on in Fall River, she's running about weeds growing out of somebody's sidewalk.
And then she says, take pride where you live.
Yeah. Well, take pride about your city and stop taxing us. You know something? Maybe if you stop giving out tips to the millionaires, and then after you give them a tip, you underassess their property. So the little tax they're paying already, they're paying even nothing, basically. And we know what they did with Kathy Ann Viveris and a few other people. And this is to the nth degree because Nelson revealed some figures at the city council that was staggering. And he's got more. And we're going to have to get those numbers and put them on very shortly. But then they're going to complain about the homeowner. I just saw a stat that like 40 to 60% of the people in this country are financially strapped. Don't listen to this is a campaign. Don't listen to the idiot Democrats, the Democrats, because Kamala is going to be on today telling her economic plan, her new economic plan. They destroyed the country, and she was part of this. Remember, she was the vice president, and she actually promoted Joe Biden's Bidenomics. They've got videos upon videos of her talking about Bidenomics is great. Now she's going to suggest, supposedly, this is what they're saying. If she doesn't say it, don't come back and say, well, you said she. Well, that's what all the news media outlets are saying. She's going to talk about the greedy businesses that are gouging you. Not the fact that they spent trillions and trillions of dollars trying to inflate the economy and buy you, and that causes inflation. They're going to blame the companies. Companies have. Do companies gouge? Some do, but most don't. Grocery stores and stuff, they're going to set price controls. Well, every economist, or 98% of the economists on the planet, will tell you that they've already tried this. It doesn't work. It makes it worse. They tried it under Jimmy Carter. It failed. They tried it under Richard Nixon. It failed dismally. Stores have to pay more for everything now because of the Democrats. Oil costs more, gasoline costs more, everything costs more by the inflation they caused by spending trillions upon trillions of dollars. Even a simpleton, well, no, I can't say that because most of the simpletons in the Democratic Party, including their leadership, still don't understand basic economics. They understand socialism, government control, and it doesn't work. Let's just look what happened to Russia. Russia tried to control prices on groceries. The grocery store said, screw it. We can't afford to have that much stock anymore because it costs too much to get this stuff. And people were waiting for a week in a bread line. Then they started becoming more free market, and now that doesn't exist in Russia anymore. But this is what these idiots are going to try to convince you is going to fix the economy. It's already failed all over the world. Venezuela, Russia, anywhere. Cuba, doesn't work. Socialism doesn't work. And these people try to tell you, economics is simple. If you give people a lot of money, businesses charge more. That creates inflation. But when that money's it's one-time money, then the people don't have the money anymore, and the inflation begins to rise above any pay raises, which it has. Now you got people that can't pay for the products, and now you got the problem. People can't afford to live. I mean, this is not. You don't have to be Einstein. Probably the only thing that would prevent you from understanding this is you're a Democrat. So with that, CJ, back to you.
It's always something, that's for sure. There were a couple of comments made during your speech. I'm leaving this one up for you right now with Linda Mead. And of course, Linda, when you give them anything for free, they become entitled. And that's one of the problems we have. And the question is, where did the money come from for the free buses? I'll tell you where it came from. It came from the millionaire tax. Remember that 4% surtax that you voters approved? Remember, if you hit the lottery, you got to pay an extra 4%. I'm sure you're going to love that. Money. And that money goes to transportation and education, supposedly. Like the educational system needs more money. It's already failed. Don't reward it for failing.
You're right, CJ. But I mean, the irony of what you just said is they've thrown more money, and our educational system now isn't even in the top 5 in the world. I mean, we got third world countries ranked ahead of us. And the irony is, look where they put the money. All their friends.
Right.
That we have teachers being underpaid in Fall River. You think if they would have thrown that money at getting teachers and providing smaller classroom sizes and let teachers teach, let the teachers get well paid. No. Who gets good? Who gets all the big pays? The assistant superintendents, the superintendents, the administrators. Everybody gets the big. The Kenny Pachicos and the maintenance, big giant pay raises, and the teachers in Fall River are $10,000 behind Somerset. There you go again with government. The worst thing you can do is allow your government to, you have to let it control as little as possible. That's why socialism has never worked anywhere in the world. They all love to be socialists. And especially the pseudo-socialists like Bernie Sanders. I'm a socialist. The guy's a multimillionaire. That's not socialism. You're not supposed to be a millionaire. Socialism is about everybody. It's fundamental.
Share the wealth, baby.
That's right. But these people are such hypocrites. And like I said, it's going to be tonight. I won't even watch that. I'll watch the excerpts. But wage and price control. I mean, it's laughable. It's laughable. I remember, and you do too, CJ. You remember the wage and price controls under Nixon in the 70s?
Yeah. Gas lines.
It was a fiasco. It was an absolute horror show. You had to wait. And you couldn't. Some states you could only get gas based on your number plate. Some could only go on odd days. Some could only go on even days. People were getting to the gas stations at 4:00 in the morning and waiting 4 hours for them to open up. And then they'd run out of gas.
Yeah.
But they're going to do it again. Only the Democrats would do it over again. It's like a child. They put their hand on a stove, they burn it. They probably will not put their hand on a stove again. But if they continue to, they got a problem. Because if they burn their hand and the next day they go put their face on a stove, you better take them to a psychiatrist. But this is the Democrats. Their solution to everything is more government regulations, more taxes, and more spending, and more governmental control. I mean, it's just crazy. It's just crazy. And we have that in Fall River. Coogan just keeps spending money. We're broke. We got to look for every conceivable way to get money from us. Purple bags, pickup fees again. You're going to get fined for your grass. Oh, you got weeds growing out of a crack in your sidewalk. We're going to fine your sidewalk. It's the city sidewalk. Every way we can conceivably find to get money, bleed that, take what's left in your wallet. We're still going to give out pay raises. We're still going to negotiate new contracts when they've already said they can't afford the last contracts they got. But they're going to give nobody's going to take a zero. Nobody's going to put them on. Now, if you want a freeze on something, not on grocery prices and stuff, because it doesn't work. It's time for the city to say, wait, we got to have a moratorium on any more spending. We're only going to spend for what the bills that we have to pay.
But Bridget won't like that. Bridget won't like that. She says it's not possible for the city not to bond. You remember that? She said that to the city council.
That's right.
And as long as we bond, we're going to pay more in the debt exclusion.
Yeah.
Because Paul never said, according to her, that no new bonding would raise the debt exclusion payment or change it. We were there. We were there for every single neighborhood meeting. No videos were made. So I want to know what historic videos she was watching. Because no videos were made of his appearance. And back then he was nice to us. Remember? See, we can disagree and still remain cordial.
Yeah. Look, I'm sure that there was something that they probably wrote somewhere, or they might even implied that at a council and made some off the remark about well, if we control a budget or something like. But that's not what Paul Coogan said. Paul Coogan said, as I said in that letter to the council, that we would be paying little or nothing by 23. Every single, and we took the opposite position. We took the position that the city could never stop spending, and that was an absolute lie. That will never happen. We will be paying. And again, like with the charter, we were right. Yeah, it's going to be worse than Venezuela in the United States. Well, they've wrecked Venezuela. The places, people are starving in Venezuela. The country is a disaster, and now they're sending all the criminals over here. I think it was a Venezuelan gang. I was just reading an article about Colorado. They took over a couple of high rises. Venezuelan gangs. They threw everybody out of the high rise. They invaded a couple of high rises. I mean, these people are nuts. They think socialism is good. Why does everybody in a socialist country try to sneak into America? Have you seen interviews with people from socialist countries? People who came from China legally and said how oppressive it was. People who came, how about the Cubans? The Cubans that had to flee Cuba when Castro took over, they hate socialism because they've seen what it does. But the Democrats never do. And Paul doesn't care. Look, like you said, CJ, we went to every single meeting. He kept saying, it's 23. We'll be, we're going to be paying almost nothing, or you probably pay nothing. We'll absorb that without any problem at all. And I got a very good memory. And then we would say, that's not true. You know how governments are. They're never going to be able to, because they're going to keep spending. And they did.
That's right.
It wasn't them that said they would not have to spend. We said they couldn't stop spending. And then he turned around and he lied. He's lying. Again.
Having a tough time there, Chip?
No, I'm just reading it. I'm trying to get the context of. Yeah. Oh no, this socialism it brings equality and stuff. It doesn't exist. You're right. It don't exist. Look, socialism on paper seems like a good idea, but it doesn't work. Because human nature in socialist countries. Do you think Putin is broke? No. Socialists have people like Bernie Sanders at the top of the socialist ladder. They're millionaires, and all the rest of the people are paupers. You can't guarantee equal outcomes. It's an impossibility. Only agree equal opportunity. Give people the chance. That's what a free market, that's what capitalism does. It gives you a free market. If you work hard, if you price your stuff right, you stay in business. If you don't, you go out of business. Socialism is predicated on the idea that we're going to make everybody's going to work for the state and everybody's equal and everybody gets the same and we take it. That never happens. You end up with an elitist class and a class of people that are virtually on the verge of starvation most of the time. Look at all the socialist countries. Nobody has a high standard of living there except the elitists. But that's what the Democrats are anyway. Think about the Democratic Party. They're elitists. The movie stars, the billionaires, Jeff Bezos, Amazon, Apple, all these billionaires who can go anywhere. They can have a house in Switzerland, a house out in the South Pacific, on Fiji. They can jet anywhere they want to go. They can do anything they want to do, and they're above all the chaos they create with socialism. But they look down on the peons, the proletariat, and say, "Oh, let's just pretend that we're going to give them all. Everybody is going to have an equal lifestyle." That's, look, it's not like this is a new thing. I mean, when Karl Marx wrote Das Kapital, that was 100 years ago, over 100 years ago, actually. But, the theory is great, but it doesn't work. We've proven it. It's throughout the world. We have never seen as Marx said, he used Hegel because they all studied Hegel, with the theory of dialectic materialism, which says thesis, antithesis, two separate views. They argue it out, they come to a consensus, and it becomes a synthesis. And then that continues according to Hegel. But Marx said, no, my theory is they have capitalism, I have socialism. The synthesis is a classless society. That's what was his synthesis. Socialism, a classless society. Do you think there's no classes in Russia? Do you think Putin's classes are people waiting in a bread line? Do you think the commissars in the Russian party have an equal standard of living as the people standing in the bread lines? I mean, get a grip on yourself. The problem with Democrats is they live in America and they've been given such a great lifestyle and high standard of living in comparison to these countries. They don't have a clue how the rest of these cultures are living, because most of them have never been out of the United States. And that's the problem. With you, back to you, CJ.
Socialism, Marxism, communism, democracy, they're all a caste system. They're all a caste system. And if you know anything about the caste system in other countries, the way it worked, and sometimes still does, okay, you had people that had in the lower castes, which did things which were classified as unclean. You couldn't be near them. They were unclean. A nurse was classified as unclean because they cleaned up patients. They wiped their butt. They got rid of it. Guys who dug cesspools or porta potties, latrines, whatever, they were classified as unclean. And they didn't get anything. They were treated poorly. It's kind of like the way it works in America today. The only difference is we don't call it a caste system. We call it democracy in America, which is a joke. Because in democracy in America, you have the haves and the have-nots. There's nobody in the middle. There is no middle class any longer in the United States. Okay, you're either poor or rich. And if you're poor, you're part of the dirty class. You're not worthy. We don't want to be bothered with you. Okay? But it's that dirty class, that low class, that middle class that keeps that high class in their money. All you got to do is look at Taylor Swift. People are fighting for tickets. They're willing to pay $2,000 and $3,000 for a ticket. I wouldn't pay 2 cents. Not that I don't like her music, but I'm not going to get caught up in this craziness. It brings us back to the time of the Beatles. I remember when the Beatles was like that. Michael Jackson was like that. Elvis was like that. And it made millions of dollars for these people. And that's great. But what are these people doing for their community? What are these people doing for the everyday person? What are they doing for you and me? That's what the socialism that they want. That's what Kamala Harris is supposedly talking about. But we both know she's not. Because if she was, they wouldn't have had a meet the candidate night in Newport at Salve Regina at $1,000 just to get through the door and $10,000 to have a picture taken with the vice presidential candidate. That's not socialism. That is Kamala Harris and Tim Walz being capitalists, raising money so they can become the powerful, the rich and powerful. And they'll leave us to be the poor and undeserving at the cost of $1,000 a head if you want to meet the candidate. I don't know. And then to top it all off, the press weren't allowed to ask questions. They were able to write down things on their pad and paper, but they couldn't bring in a recorder. They couldn't bring in a videotape. And somebody actually swiped a picture somehow of Tim Walz at the podium. They got a picture of him there. I don't know how they did it. They didn't pay $10,000 for it. And I'm sure they were all upset about it. But let me tell you something. It always makes for an interesting time. Always makes for an interesting time. Politics is a dirty business. And we know because we've lived in it long enough. And we've been watching it long enough. And we've been fighting it for long enough. That's for sure.
That's true, CJ. But and I'm glad. A couple of comments. I'm very impressed that Linda's ancestors was William Bradford. We're already back to the Plymouth. So it's pretty. Jeff is right about the tickets. But the irony of the tickets is I don't care if they gave away the tickets.
Right.
The thing that disturbs me about that entire thing is these idiots that are fundamentally mostly Democrats. Because, like I say, they don't know anything about Palestine and Israel. While the world's on the verge of World War III, they're hysterical over the fact that a concert got canceled, not the fact that the world's on fire.
That's right.
It shows a total lack of perspective. You wonder why the country is messed up. And I think you, at Tuesday night's council meeting, I was very glad at the beginning of your presentation when you reminded all these yo-yos that we live in a constitutional republic. This is not a democracy, okay? Just as socialism doesn't work, our brilliant forefathers realized that democracy doesn't work either. Because pure socialism cannot work, and pure democracy would be anarchy. because fundamentally, a democracy means everybody's opinion is fundamentally the same. It's almost like semi-socialism. You'll never agree on anything if you want to make it, because you're going to run the country, by having, a consensus, and you'll never get a consensus. That's why you need that's why they created a constitutional republic. And that's the thing that disturbs me. These people have no grasp on reality. They just don't. I mean, and you said that, and when I went there and reminded our city administrator that, how dare he tell them that the city council can't listen to citizens of Fall River. That's their legal obligation. The Constitution.
Yeah, but he turned around and told you and I, if you've got something to say about me, bring it to me, say it to my face. And when you offered to, he said, let's go out. You said, let's go outside and talk about it. He's so
after I made the presentation, I told him then, I said, I got plenty to say about you, and you want to go outside and talk about it now? I said, you can watch my citizens, because it's going to be all about you. And it was. And when I got done, and I said, it's about the law, and he snickered. But then when I read the law, and I referenced what you referenced, part of the 5, that they have to be answerable to us. And then when I told him, you don't have to agree with what we say, but you are legally obligated. You are constitutionally obligated to listen to the people that you were elected to be their substitutes and agents and our representatives. And you have to be answerable to us. How can you answer us if you don't listen to us? You can disagree. Nobody said it. Then I read the Supreme Court decision. And then what did he say when I got after the meeting? When I walked up and I said, you got any more questions? Is it clear enough for you now? And he went, point taken. Yeah, you were, in other words, you were right. Damn right I'm right. Who the hell are you? You don't even live in this city. You're going to go up there and tell the council, don't listen to the people of Fall River? Both of them don't live in the city of Fall River. And then they're going to get condescending and snide. That's why I said he got upset because, and you started that, CJ, by asking how much the trolley costs. And then I said,
right.
You get a straight answer. But, he found out I put a little Fall River on him. You don't tell Fall River people aren't afraid to look you in the eye and tell you what they got to say. And I told them exactly what I said at the time, because when Andrew Raposo told you that, I don't know, but you can ask him, Seth Aikens, he should have the numbers. And what did I tell you? I said, you'll never get a straight answer. And we laughed. Right. And when you laughed, that's when he said, oh, you want to talk about me? What did I do? I got up immediately, walked right up and said, do you really think I'm afraid to say it to your face? I spent half my life in people's face negotiating and on television saying what I say not anonymously either. So it's like these people, they're not from Fall River. They better go watch Donovan's Reef and watch
find out what Fall River's like.
Yeah, and watch the ESPN documentary about Chris Herron, which starts off with something that says he's a native of Fall River, a place where people punch first and ask questions later. So this is not a town where people don't make eye contact if you get in their face. They're either going to fight you or they're going to run. And I don't run. So, but he got a lesson in Fall River that night, and he also got humiliated because I exposed him. And I said it. He's an attorney. He should know this. He should know that, and I also closed with when he said the word, when I was a lawyer, I had to convince people. What did I say at the end of that presentation? I said, it's not their job to convince you. And I put it in a letter in writing. And you got to copy that letter. I said, it's their job to give you information and accurate numbers so you can execute your legally required fiduciary responsibilities to the people of Fall River. These people ignore everything they want to. And like you said, elitist classes always run it. No matter socialism, everywhere. There are always the haves and the have-nots, and the idea of socialism or democracy, in their purest form, is a pipe dream.
Yes, it is. That's for sure. Well, I want to thank you all for watching. And remember, stay safe, stay angry, and hold your politicians accountable. We'll see you on Monday. Have a great weekend. Enjoy yourself.